Anatomy, the bane of every artist's existence. I sucked so bad at it, so I decided that it's time to actually sit down and learn it. Usually, the videos I watched about anatomy had really useful information, but I had no idea how to practice it. So I collected the resources and exercises I found the most useful. Hopefully, seeing how I studied and applied this knowledge helps you do the same. Hey, I'm Stell, and this video is part of an ongoing series I have where I teach myself and you the fundamentals of art, one topic a month. In today's video, I'll be providing you with an overview of basic anatomy knowledge and a full playlist of videos on this topic that I found the most helpful while studying. In the following weeks, I'll be posting more in-depth videos on specific parts of the body and their bones and muscles. To make sure you don't miss those, please subscribe and like the video. Thank you. Anatomy represents the set of rules artists use to depict human bodies. Because our bodies are so complicated, it takes real drilling over a long amount of time to actually memorize properly. It's inevitable if you want to master it. However, I'm making this video to show you how much you can accomplish in only a week. Without further ado, let's get started. Here's how I'll structure the information in this video. Primarily, we'll go over basic body proportions. Then, we'll move on to how to draw the simplified body. Then, how to practice. And finally, we'll go over some helpful resources. Basic body proportions. Proportions are important for making the human figure look right. These are idealized proportions in a neutral standing pose, and they serve as a good starting point. But please remember, real bodies have a lot of variation, so these exact proportions might not work for every single figure you want to draw. By learning the basic proportions well, you'll later be able to adjust them to each figure. We'll be measuring the average body parts in heads, because I found that system has worked for me so far. So you measure the head height by measuring distance from the top of the skull to the bottom of the chin. So remember, not from the top of the hair. Let's say you have some kind of like hair here. You wouldn't measure from up here, you would measure from here. The ideal average human body will be somewhere between 7.5 and 8 heads tall. I like to use 8 because it makes things easy to measure. So the crotch will be 4 heads down in the middle of the body. The legs can be split into 2 equal parts. 2 heads down from the crotch is the bottom of the knee, and 2 heads down from there is the bottom of the heel. For arms, the distances from the collarbone to the elbow and from the elbow to the knuckles are equal. The elbow roughly lines up with where the ribcage ends. The shoulders for a male figure will be about 2 heads wide, and a bit less for a female figure. The rib cage, measured from the collarbone to the bottom of the ribs, will be about 1.5 heads. These are the proportions that make the most sense to me, and they're heavily based on Andrew Loomis's book, Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. It's a really useful anatomy book that I'll talk more about in the How to Practice section. As I said, don't take these measurements at face value. They're only here as a starting guide. Different bodies will have different measurements, so don't get obsessed with trying to make every figure you draw fit exactly into these parameters. How to draw the simplified body. Now that you have the proportions in mind, let's see how you can actually draw the figure. Knowing the proportions is crucial, but as soon as you look at a body in the real world, you'll get at least some form of perspective happening. With that, we introduce the spooky, scary foreshortening. That's a perspective term for how forms can look shortened when flipped forward, closer to the viewer. What's helped me with drawing bodies in space is simplifying them into basic three-dimensional forms. Boxes, cylinders, spheres, and so on. For this, you'll need to know how to draw simple forms and make them look three-dimensional. I have a perspective video and corresponding playlist that might help with this. But here are the basic forms I'll use in this video. Boxes are great to use when you need to show the orientation of a body part in space. Cylinders are great for arms and legs, and you can use contour lines to indicate their form. And sometimes, squished spheres will be great. Again, you can add contour lines to these to help you visualize them. Using these, here's the way I simplify the body. My first step is drawing the rib cage, then spine, then head and pelvis, getting the orientations and angles of all three. The spine helps me visualize how they're all connected in space. Sometimes I start with the head or the pelvis. The order really isn't that important. You can do whatever makes the most sense to you. I simplify all three of these as boxes, or variations of boxes based on the pose. Sometimes I make the ribcage an egg shape, or the pelvis a softer shape, or the head a sphere. I still haven't quite gotten the shape of the pelvis down because there are a lot of different ways to simplify it. For the limbs, I use tapered cylinders in different sizes. The blank spaces in between these are joints. I simplify the feet into a triangular box. For the hands, I use boxes with cylinders on top. For the stomach and neck, I also use tapered cylinders. Bodies are fluid and organic, and they move. Simplifying them into basic 3D forms is just that, simplifying. It serves the purpose of grasping the very basics of how to draw bodies. It's there for you as a jumping board to dive into anatomy, rather than a crutch to rely on forever. With that in mind, if you can't draw figures at all, this is a great starting point in my opinion. When you become a bit more comfortable with drawing the simplified body, you can tackle more specific and complex muscle groups and bones. I'll be putting up videos on the anatomy of different body parts in the following weeks. Make sure you subscribe to not miss them. My approach to simplifying the body is heavily based on Proko's anatomy series. I put a couple of his most useful videos on this topic in the playlist in the description below. Check them out. I think Proko does a great job explaining this concept. How to practice. We've gone through all of these explanations, but what now? Well, I'm here to share how I actually practice these concepts and which resources I use to do exactly that. I've come up with a little plan of action to help you get started with practicing anatomy over the span of 1 week. I'll try to go really in depth explaining these exercises and showing you how to do them. But if you still feel like you need more clarification, please leave a comment or join my Discord server and ask. I'll try to help as much as I can. Let's start with the warm-up. To warm up for any of these exercises, I suggest that you try to draw simple, three-dimensional forms floating around in space. Get creative. Manipulate the shapes, squish and stretch them, maybe even combine some into a new form. This will get you in the mindset to see actual form instead of drawing flat outlines. Day 1. For starters, I recommend you draw yourself a little proportion chart. Try to draw a really simple body using the measurements that I talked about in the proportion section. Once you do this, try to do it again, now just based on your memory of the proportions. Day 2. Grab references of poses that seem interesting to you. For now, try to avoid references in extreme perspective. Drawing over the image, try to locate where the ribcage, pelvis, and spine are. Try to simplify the whole body into three-dimensional forms, like I talked about in the simplified body section. Do this several times. If you're having trouble and need additional resources to reference, you can look at the book Morpho Simplified Forms. It's a great book with lots of amazing drawings that you can reference and learn from. You can also use Figure Drawing for All It's Worth by Andrew Loomis. Both of these books have helped me a lot, and I suggest you buy them. But if you can't, they're also easily accessible online. Day 3. Take the drawings from the previous exercise and try to copy the simplified body, looking at the reference. Again, repeat this exercise. Don't just do it once. When you start struggling, turn to the books I recommended for guidance. Day 4. Repeat day 2. I know, it's boring, but try to notice your mistakes and improvements while you draw this time. Day 5. Take yesterday's references and repeat day 3 exercise, but with a twist. Try to change up the pose. For example, move the legs or arms or head to be different from the reference. Change the pose to be more to your liking. Day 6. try to draw a whole simplified body from imagination. I know, scary stuff, and expect for it to suck at first. Try to identify your mistakes and redraw it, looking for references that can help you with the pose you chose. Day 7. Analysis Day. Go over everything you've drawn in the past week and try to identify the common mistakes you make and the areas of the body that interest you more than others. Those are the things you're going to study next. Also, don't forget to admire your progress. Because I'm sure at this point you've made a lot of it already. Alrighty, before you start practicing, let's establish some ground rules for this weekly plan. The way you need to approach these exercises is: first, you draw, then you analyze. So you compare with a reference, you identify mistakes. Then, look for more information in the resources if you need to, and then draw again. Rule number 2. If you feel like you can't get a certain part of the body right, or if you just find an area very interesting, go to the resources for more information. I'm absolutely sure you'll be able to find either a video in the playlist or a page in one of the books to clarify what you're struggling with or what you're interested in. Rule number 3. There's not a specific amount of daily time that you need to spend on each exercise. You just have to make sure you do them to the best of your ability, without any rushing. Take however long you want for these exercises, and if you need to, you can adjust the weekly plan to fit your schedule. It doesn't have to be only a week. You can extend it to your liking. Number 4. Forget your fear of messing up. This is practice. Inevitably, some of it will look terrible, and that's okay. The knowledge you take away from it will be invaluable. Rule number 5. We're not looking for perfect, we're looking for believable. You don't need to make your drawing look exactly like the reference. The feel of the pose is more important than precision. You can exaggerate the pose or simplify it in a different way. Do anything you want to make this more fun for you. Rule number 6. Remember to have a good time. If you see that your mood is getting worse while studying, take a break and come back to it later. Helpful resources. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. My brief explanation was good, but there are way more knowledgeable artists out there that helped me with these concepts. Before you actually practice, I strongly encourage you to first watch the playlist of the most helpful simplified anatomy videos I found during my time studying. I've watched a ton, and these ones genuinely significantly improved my understanding of human bodies. You can find the playlist in the description, as well as the books I mentioned during the video. If this video was informative, please like it and subscribe. I know that was a lot of information at once, so I've left a brief summary in the pinned comment of this video for you to review what you learned today. Please reply to it if you have any suggestions. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to join my Discord server and ask them, and I'll try to help to the best of my ability. If you'd like to see more of my art, you can check out my other socials listed in my linktree, or just search Stelora on most platforms. And finally, if you really like what I do, you could support the channel by buying me a coffee. Thank you for staying until the end, and happy painting!